Hello, School Transportation Nation. It's Tony Corcoran. We're back from Charlotte, North Carolina, bringing you all the latest and greatest in School Transportation Nation content. This episode is brought to you by TransFinder, the leader in school bus routing software, and by School Radio, your source for reliable radio communications. We'll be talking with Joshua Hinerman, Director of Transportation for Robertson County Schools in Tennessee in a little bit. We just saw Joshua out at STN EXPO East in Charlotte, North Carolina, suburb of Concord. So it's great seeing him. So great having him on the podcast with us and breaking it down. We also have fan favorite Taylor Ekbatani and her famous social media posts. Taylor, you were on fire at STN EXPO East. I think everybody loves your speaker cameos.
Look, I'm just saying, being a speaker, I understand how they feel, It's just that limelight constantly following you whenever you're walking.
Everybody wants to talk to you, right? STN wants to quote everything you say.
Exactly.
I knew it. All right. Well, we've got also Mr. Ryan Gray, who decided not to come to STN EXPO East, but that's all right. We still love him. He saw us from afar, had some personal stuff going on, but we're glad we were able to successfully execute his vision, his educational classes. Ryan, glad to have you with us, sir.
Thank you. I'm not a fan favorite like Taylor, but I'm still honored to be here. Always fun to hang out with the nation.
Ryan, Taylor, you think Ryan's still loved? I think he is, right?
For sure. He's also way more well known. Everyone's coming up to me like, "Where's Ryan?" I'm like, unfortunately, not with us. Except if someone had a complaint, then I'd be like, "Oh, he's around here somewhere. Just find Ryan."
Email Ryan. He's the guy.
Yeah.
If it's a complaint, then they can come find me. But if it's going well, but yeah, I definitely missed being out there. Had a family issue, had to take care of, unfortunately. We're here we are. I think it was a success, Tony. I was, like you said, I was watching from afar. I was trying to stay up late each night, not as late as you guys were, obviously, being on the East Coast and me on the West Coast, but still late, making sure everything was edited and galleries were looking good and the show reporter emails were ready to go out. So definitely was with you all in spirit.
Yeah, I have to say props to the team. The photo galleries on the stnonline.com website were amazing. They were up so fast. Guys, if you haven't been over and you want to see what the conference was all about, what it was like, we have a litany of videos up on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram. We got it all over the place. We did that Thomas Built Buses factory tour. We got some great reaction videos from attendees. I saw Kean Fields from Boston Public Schools. He has one. It's got almost 5,000 views. So that was really great to hear his reaction of what he thought of the Thomas Built Bus factory, and really great to have attendees experience that and us to share it with them in these platforms. Everything from the Directors Summit to our event at Charlotte Motor Speedway to registration opening at the Embassy Suites at our School Transportation News Networking event. The trade show was really great too. We had the NCAA style around it. Obviously, the round 1 and round 2 of the tournament were going on. And since then, we're into the Final Four. So that at this recording, all number 1 seeds look like they were pressing forward. So it was just a great time building networking, fellowship, great content, great discussions for people to look at the latest and greatest products. Thomas Built Bus has launched some new products with us at the show. So it was really great going to that side of the country. We really hadn't focused on the East Coast. And it was great to get exposure. Almost, I think it was about 95% of the attendees that came, right around 300 regular attendees and a little over 300 vendor staff. It's about 600 in total. And most had never been to STN Expo before. So it was really great exposing them to what we offer, everything that we do. And we're looking forward to coming back in 2026. So it's March 26th through the 31st. So around that same time frame, I guess it'll be round 3 and 4 of the NCAA tournament in 2026. We'll see if it's in Charlotte. That'll be really cool if it's there. But definitely save the dates, guys, for 2026 back in Charlotte, Concord for you. Again, that's March 26th through the 31st. All right, so going to run down with Taylor and Ryan a little bit of an expo recap. We're going to be looking at STN EXPO West in Reno. That's about 3 months away. Man, we got tariffs coming from all directions. What's that mean for the industry? And Transair, big news coming from them. So we'll have Ryan touch on the top headlines right after this. Hey guys, what do software, hardware, and safety have in common? One word: TransFinder. At the STN Expo in Reno, TransFinder won 3 Innovation Choice Awards, voted on by STN Expo attendees for best software, best hardware, best safety technology. TransFinder's Route Finder plus routing solution and apps, Stop Finder and Wayfinder, are well known in the industry. Not everyone realizes TransFinder provides hardware like card readers, tablets, and mounts. And as for safety, Patrol Finder for schools is TransFinder's latest solution designed to make buses and campuses safer. TransFinder's president and CEO, Antonio Civitella, said the recognition means so much because it's voted on by STN Expo attendees. Civitella said, "We know a lot is riding on TransFinder because a lot is riding on those yellow buses that travel through our communities. TransFinder must continue to innovate as more is being expected of transportation departments from district leadership as well as parents." Learn more at transfinder.com. That's transfinder.com.
Thanks, Tony. Yeah, definitely. Lots of news, obviously, coming from STN EXPO East. So we got plenty of news that, again, like you said, Tony, the team did a great job. Total coverage of the conference. So a lot going on. You can check all those articles out at stnonline.com. A couple of the other items going on out there, plenty still going on, as you alluded to, Tony. Want to send a quick shout out to Bart Markson. A lot of you know him from We Transport. That is a beacon mobility company for the last several years. But We Transport, their history goes back to 1959 when Bart's parents, Walter and Edie Markson, started that school bus contractor out on Long Island. They've grown to one of the bigger contractors in New York. So Bart was the final Markson with that family to work there at the company. He retired last week, so I have an article with him. It's a really interesting guy, really fun guy. I know a lot of you out there in the nation know Bart. NSTA Hall of Fame inductee last summer. So congratulations to him on a great career. Got a great story, so you can check out that. A lot of you might not know the Markson family was involved with Trans-Tech Bus, which of course, has since been acquired by Forest River. So read more about Bart's life, his career, and the family over there at We Transport and Beacon Mobility. So again, congratulations to Bart. As you mentioned, Tony, Transair, talking about acquisitions, it's announced it was acquired. They announced it on March 31st. I'm sure it was been in the works for several weeks or months before that. Lippert Components, it's a subsidiary of LCI Industries, a $4 billion revenue worldwide company, 13,000 employees, very heavy in the commercial vehicle space, especially the RV space. So I spoke with Rick Leonard, the son of co-founder Dick Leonard, of course. So talking about family companies and family legacy, Transair goes back to 1979. When Dick and Ed Leonard, their brothers, they started the company, air conditioning. So a lot of you folks know the Transair brand. That Transair brand is living on. It's going to be now known as Transair by Lippert. So Lippert brings a lot of manufacturing and supply chain and technology enhancements that Rick said was really an ideal fit for the company. Of course, being a family-owned company, culture was very important to him as well. So you can read more about that over on stnonline.com. So it will be good to start to get to know Tony, the folks over at Lippert Components. That's another family business as well. So that made it even sweeter for Rick. I think he was telling me that it really aligned. So Jason Lippert is the president and CEO of Lippert Components. He's the grandson of their founder, Larry Lippert. And that, goes back to 1959, kind of similar to We Transport. So a lot of family business in the news over at stnonline.com.
Yeah, that's a big one too. I was going to say, we even saw Austin Leonard, who is his son, Rick's son, at the STN EXPO East trade show out there manning their booth. And one of the reasons Rick couldn't come to the show was like, hey, I couldn't tell you because this deal was going down. So we're real happy for him. I think whenever you're a family business and you have an event like this, they're scary because it's change, right? And he was very passionate about his employees and wanted to make sure they were in good hands, because there's always private equity and other entities out there, and you never know how they're going to treat your people. And so I think this was really important to him to make the decision. And we're excited to be working with Transair. And I think Rick is going to be there for at least 3 years in the interim.
3 more years. He's been the longtime president, but he's moving into the vice president or director of operations role for Lippert. But like he said, he's going to hang around for at least three more years. And it was very important to him, like you mentioned, Tony, that a company just didn't come in and slice and dice. And he told me, hey, there's always going to be changes anytime you have a new company come on. But he's really looking forward to the new relationship there with the Lipperts, and really feels that it's going to be beneficial to his employees, to his customers, and really to the business. It's the boost up, he told me, that the company really needs to take it to the next level.
Yeah. Also some scary stuff, Ryan. Tariffs have been dominating the headlines. It is everywhere. The stock market has been just plummeting, very volatile. People don't know what's going to go on. I'm definitely hearing from a lot of our manufacturers that they're concerned that prices are going to go up immediately. So we're going to see what the fallout looks like from tariffs, but there's definitely cause for concern in a lot of industries. School bus might be a little more insulated from it, but definitely some components are coming from overseas.
A lot of components. And, back to when I was talking to Rick Leonard, another thing that he talked about with that Lippert acquisition, tongue twister there, was insulating a bit potentially from those tariffs. And he pointed out, hey, everybody in this global supply chain, everyone to some extent is getting some kind of component from overseas. And I think what's put a shockwave into the stock market, when we were recording this, the Dow fell over 1,600 points. So that's some big news right there. I think, business everywhere, business people everywhere are really, trying to figure out what their next moves are going to be. But like Rick was telling me, there's so many components, and this isn't the first time we've been through tariffs. I think to this magnitude, that's what I mentioned recently. Previously in the first Trump administration, we had the China tariffs, and Rick was telling me that businesses were pretty adept at being able to move things around in terms of suppliers and maybe source from different countries. But now that it's really across the board tariffs, I think that's what that shockwave that we're feeling right now. So it will be certainly interesting, because there, especially in the school bus market, so much is made here in the good old USA. But again, because of the global supply chain, someone's always going to have to get some kind of component from overseas. We're going to certainly see, I think, at least in the short term, some price increases on especially school buses and other products, kind of depending on their footprint. Certainly we've seen in terms of auto manufacturing, just with our cars and trucks, our passenger vehicles, those have gone up, and there was a big pre-buy. There was a lot of articles talking about folks, going out and buying their new cars before the costs went up. Will we see that in the school bus world? That's a lot harder because of the cycle. But what we've been talking about traditionally with pre-buys, and we're staring this in the face with EPA Phase 3 GHG emissions rules if they continue on. I know EPA under the new administration is looking at that as well as a lot of different regulations. Will we see a pre-buy of school buses ahead of the regulation, which we knew was going to make the vehicles more expensive because of the added after treatment and technology that's being added to diesel engines? And we saw that in 2010. Not so much over the last couple rounds of EPA regulations, Phase 1 and Phase 2. But I think that to a certain degree, people became insulated to it, and just with everything we've been seeing, school buses increasing in price, not just electric vehicles, but certainly everything else. So yeah, definitely. I think people are waiting to see what happens next with this, what the real impact is. Certainly in Reno in July, I'm going to be fielding a panel, another panel. We held a panel last year with several of the OEMs. We're going to be reprising that. So we have Bluebird, Cummins, Icy Bus, Thomas, and adding Ride Mobility on that. So we're definitely, that's definitely going to be a big topic of conversation, Tony, is the tariff impact on that. And, a lot of the companies, they don't want to talk about it, because it's so much as unknown, and they don't want to, they just don't have anything to share. I think the shoe is still falling, so to speak. So I think that as that gets sussed out, we'll know more. And hopefully by the time July rolls around, we can get some more information out to the industry.
Yeah, appreciate those updates, Ryan. Really good stuff with the news in the industry. And there's always kind of excitement. And I think going in, many people are also thinking with STN EXPO East, preparing for the new school year, right? We're moving into that budgetary phase where people have maybe some excess budget left over. They're looking to deploy it. New budgets get released in that late June, early July timeframe. And we're looking to that. And school bus industry has traditionally been very recession proof, right? Because it's a lot of state tax dollars, property tax, sales tax. We'll see what that looks like for our industry. But, I think the real oscillation is going to be, does a bus cost 25% more? And if your budget is $1 million, that means you can just buy less buses. Your budget isn't going to change. It's just the cost of the product is going to go up. So what does that mean for the industry? And how does that play into it? And many of the technology providers, right? If you're buying hardware, yeah, it's probably coming from overseas. So we'll see higher costs on those sorts of things, where software, obviously, it's just a cause of labor, right? Does labor get affected? The cost of things around us goes up. Consumption-based society, and I guess we'll see what it all ends up shaking out to look like. But definitely, to your point, there's a lot of unknowns, and it seems to change day by day. There's a lot of things happening in the political environments.
And what I find interesting with that too is this is all happening at the same time that Clean School Bus program is kind of in flux. It's in hiatus mode. I'll put it that way. Certainly we've had a lot of articles and speakers recently. Look at STN EXPO East talking about this, and we're in that time frame getting close where the 2024 rebate that closed, the applications closed in January and was released late last year, that we're heading into that May, weeks out from that May deadline or that May date where they said that those awards were going to be announced. Are they going to be announced? No one really knows. Talking to the different consultants out there, that's in a state of flux. And the first two rounds, that money has been freed up, but still the round 3 money, that is still not accessible. So, one of the conversations we had with that OEM panel last summer in July was talking about the price of electric school buses, particularly. And we've all been hearing for a long time that, electric vehicles are going to become cheaper and cheaper. As the battery technology improves and economies of scale and becomes less expensive to produce all the different components. But we haven't seen that. And really, one of the perspectives that was shared during that panel was that, we have all this federal money, and it's really kind of inflated things. So if you have tariffs that are on one hand making things more expensive to manufacture, but you have less federal money that is available to really buoy those purchases or prop them up, then what happens next? And there was some consensus really that as we were already viewing Clean School Bus Program entering into that phase where it was going to start to sunset. It's supposed to run through 2026. So we're getting to the tail end of things here, that prices were going to start coming down because that money was going to dry up, because that's really seed money. And then as the whole idea was, you seed that $5 billion, you get a lot of the OEMs to recoup those big R&D costs that they incurred over the last decade, really, as they were setting this up, and really give those incentives to the end users, to the school districts, to the school bus companies, so that they could acquire and deploy those electric vehicles. Well, that's going to be going away. And the whole idea is to get the market going, get its legs under it, so that it could start feeding itself. So again, we'll see the impact of the tariffs. And I've read some articles out there that looking more at the auto industry, but one analyst indicated that he didn't think that the price increases could be long term, that maybe was a short term thing, and that things would start to settle out as we move forward. Again, time will tell. What will that impact be with school buses? Earlier this year, we did report with Bluebird's quarter one financial results. They indicated that a $25,000 car would increase by about $6,500, $6,400. Are we going to see something similar with that with school buses? Well, we will know very shortly, because folks are out there placing orders. These tariffs are now in effect, and we'll be getting some real-time reporting very soon.
Yeah, I really didn't hear a lot of tariff conversation in Charlotte, but obviously it was still kind of in flux. The announcement was literally made last week. President Trump signed it into law. So, the question lies, does it create a global trade war? Right. And obviously everyone's up in arms globally about this. So there's a lot of dynamics that are going to kind of blow back. And how does it trickle down to the school bus industry, kind of so downstream? So I think that we have to just prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And that's really the situation we're in. I mean, school transportation is very resilient. It's very recession proof. And I think that we've been tested many times before as an industry. And I mean, gosh, if we can survive COVID with schools shut down, I'm sure we can survive this. So we'll see how it plays out and keep reporting to you guys out there in the nation on all things happening. But on a brighter side, STN EXPO East, it was a lot of fun. We had a great time. Keynote speaker Scott Welly kicked it off for us at our Transportation Director Summit, really gave a great message to our audience. And I think walking away from it, everybody from a director to a sponsor, everybody got their element, what they wanted out of it to really raise their game, how to be a more focused individual. Scott talked about a story, how he was a long distance runner and how he did 100 miles, right? That is a long race. He ran for 21 hours. I was like, did you sleep? No. Did you eat? Yeah, along the way. How do you prepare mentally for a race that is so vigorous and so challenging? And he kind of walked through his experiences. And there's a great story on stnonline.com about Scott Welly's journey, as well as some episodes that we interviewed him on this podcast a few episodes back. And definitely invite you to read that and take in what you want from it. But really, just another super valuable experience for our attendees at the Transportation Director Summit. And he also keynoted, right? And he provided a little bit of a different flavor for his keynote. So really enjoyed that. Taylor, what did you think?
Yeah, I think it really resonated, with a lot of people, especially the keynote, which I attended. I unfortunately don't go to the Transportation Directors Summit, but I get to hear Scott Welly during his keynote presentation. And so I was talking with an attendee afterwards, Paul Johnson. He's the transportation manager for Wicomico County Public Schools in Maryland. And he said that it really motivated him to go further, right? And that's kind of what Scott Welly was talking about, is being an outperformer. So you can be the norm, you can be complacent, you can do your job great, right? But how do you do your job even better? And so Paul was saying, yeah, he has a lot on his plate and he does a good job with it, but how can he push himself and his staff to kind of achieve that higher level? And I think Scott really broke down the steps to do that and really provided our audience with examples from his personal life on how he did that. So I think it was a really great keynote presentation.
Yeah, I remember, Taylor, he showed a chart up on the screen. It's kind of a circular chart, beliefs, thoughts, feelings, behaviors. And it basically was the cycle of peak performance and mindset, because we all have certain beliefs that we live by and thoughts that we have and feelings, and then the behaviors that represent that. And then you get the results. So it's really, he gave the example of how many negative thoughts do people have in their day, right? Like how many is it? And it's thousands of thoughts, right?
50,000.
Yeah.
50,000 negative thoughts.
It's amazing, right? 4/5 of those thoughts are negative, right? Let that sink in. If 4/5 of your thoughts are negative, only 1/5 are positive. How do you think that's going to affect your mindset, your performance? So he really talked about the mindset of really trying to remain positive, adapt and thrive, be resilient, and make sure and have self-care. Go to events like this, invest in yourself, give yourself credit for things that you're doing, but don't forget to recharge your batteries for something. For me, I like going to the gym, right? Like I'm recharging my batteries. If I lose that, you start to lose yourself a little bit, right? You want to kind of stay sharp. And that's a great way to nourish your brain, nourish your body. And everybody has their own thing that they do to kind of reset. What's yours, Taylor? Is it shopping?
Oh, Tony, you took it right from me. No, I mean, shopping, obviously. But I also,
retail therapy, right?
You can't go wrong with retail therapy. But I think, self-care is also, taking time to focus on yourself. And I think, that could be just running a bath, maybe, and sitting there, right? And just kind of thinking. And I think he mentioned in the beginning of your day, what can you do in the beginning of your day that's self-care? Whether that's like a positive affirmation for yourself or meditating. And he provided examples on what to do in that first 4% of your day when you wake up. So I thought that was really powerful.
Ryan, I know you talked to Scott in advance of the show, and we talk about, outperforming the norm. What were your kind of key takeaways from your dialogues with Scott?
I think that, he has that sports psychology background. That's what he got his degree in. And we've had similar talks in the past about looking at how those star athletes, especially, but especially the folks that are stars at business, they have a different mindset, and it takes time. It takes training to actually to foster that, but we all have it in ourselves. So I think that it was, especially the challenges that transportation always faces, but especially now, it was a great grounding discussion, both at the TD Summit and as the STN EXPO keynote, to really get folks to look within and really examine themselves and how they interact with others, and that we all have that outperformer in us, but we have to tap that. There's so much untapped potential that folks have. So I think it was just a really great way to give us the tools that we need to look inward. We all have it in ourselves, but a lot of times people don't know where to start, and we get so dragged down by the day-to-day. We get in that mire, and certainly transportation, they are dealing with, a lot of student transporters are still dealing with employee shortages. You're dealing with the students, budgets, their parents, it's just the administrations. It's a lot to take in. So, I think that Scott really gave some great takeaways to folks so that they can tap that potential and they can be the best they can be.
Yeah, that internal dialogue in your head is so valuable to reinforce positive thoughts, because we tend to go towards the negative. So it's like, what's wrong with things? Let's talk about what's right? What's going good? And I think it becomes this kind of mental battle personally with yourself, because, if you're in school transportation, you can really dwell, oh, there's a driver shortage. Oh, there's tariffs. Oh, a parent's yelling at me. Oh, there's a fight on my bus. Oh, there's an argument amongst drivers, right? These are all kind of challenges and negative things happening. Talk about what good things drivers are doing, how positively you're doing your job, getting these kids to school. And I think Scott really hit the nail on the head. What do we do? Like, what do? You provide access to education. As a school transporter, I'm just a driver. I'm simply a mechanic. Your function of your job is to provide students with access to education. At the end of the day, that's what we do. The school bus is a function of that. It's a vehicle to provide that for kids that might not have the ability to get to school. This helps. This helps parents get to work. This helps the community thrive, right? The big picture that we really have. So it's really centering yourself around, what do you do as a school transportation operator at its core? Like, yeah, you have a function as a job, but what do you actually do when you walk away from it? What do we do at STN, right? We provide information to people to help do their jobs more successfully, safer, more efficiently. Like, that is our mission. At the end of the day, we want to provide you guys with good information to empower you to do your jobs to the best of your ability. And we pride ourselves on that. Ryan helps with the education. Taylor's reporting. She's even hosting sessions when Ryan can't make it. We've got lots of team members that are all laser focused on that in mind. And I think as a school transportation leader, you have to set the paradigm for your team that these things are valuable, and to be disciplined to provide that joyful, positive mindset, because it is very easy to fall into the trap of negative. Super easy.
Yeah, one attendee she shared, and it really pushed that positive note, right? She lost her two parents, her two brothers within a 7-year span. And she said, I get up every morning and I'm alive. And when I say good morning to someone, I mean it, because it is a good morning, because I am here, I am at work, and I'm able to help these students, get to school safely. And so I think having that mindset, not thinking negatively, but okay, yeah, she had it rough, and a lot of people have it rough, but if they show up for themselves and for the students, I think that says a lot.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, there were so many good sessions and classes going on. We had our bus technology summit / green bus summit. So there was a lot of conversations around green energy, technology demonstrations. Everybody got to be a little more intimate with their providers. We're offering the same opportunity at STN EXPO West, July 11th through the 16th out in Reno, Nevada. I invite you to go take advantage of our super early bird discount. You can save 33% off of your registration if you book before April 11th. So that is not much time left, guys. Go lock in the super early bird special. Take advantage of it. And we'd love to see you out in Reno for the largest school transportation conference in the nation. We put on a great show, and we've got great content, great keynotes. We have John Petz, who is talking about magical moments in school transportation, how your team creates these moments and how to really capture them, and how you really embrace them and share them with others within your organization. And these are going to be great opportunities for you to level up your game, get engaged, network with peers. So I invite you to come out and be part of STN Expo and see the team and see all the good stuff we're doing in the industry. Plus, Ryan's got, he's got to make this show. He can't miss Reno.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm planning on being there. And, before that, planning to be at NCST out in Iowa, beginning of next month. And Tony, we have the ACT Expo coming up too in a couple of weeks. STN is a media sponsor for that. So certainly when you're talking about alternative fuels and electric vehicles and everything that's going on, I think there's going to be a lot of discussions there about the path forward. So certainly, yep, I'm getting my suitcase ready to get back on the road. So God willing, we'll see y'all soon.
All right. Before we get to our interview, we have a quick message. Hey, safety is a number one priority for everyone in school transportation, and even more so when needing to communicate in a school bus setting. School radios, push to talk over cellular or POC radios, are the safety enhancement you need to provide clear communication across all aspects of your fleet. Schools, SROs, that's school resource officers, and beyond. School radio helps take safety and connectivity a step further by offering interoperability solutions that bridge conventional two-way radios with POC systems, creating a unified network that boosts effectiveness and safety. This integrated strategy guarantees smooth communication in both emergency situations and daily activities. To learn more about how school radio can improve safety in your communication methods, visit school-radio.com. That's school-radio.com.
Hello, nation. Taylor Ekbatani here. We have another guest here on the podcast. We're actually recording this at STN EXPO East in Charlotte, but you guys are listening to it a little later than that. But we're sitting here looking at each other, so we have that advantage. But I'm here with Josh Hinerman. He is the Director of Transportation for Robertson County Schools in Tennessee. So that's not too far for you, right?
It is not about a 7.5 hour drive.
Oh, that's a lot farther than I thought it was going to be. But that was probably a fun road trip for you.
It was. I got to go through the mountains, and I was so surprised to see everything was opened back up.
Okay. So, Josh, thanks for joining us on the podcast. And we actually just had an article out talking about the starting age for school bus driver in Tennessee. And it blew up on Facebook. All of the comments were giving their recommendations on what the starting age should be. So before we get into that and your thoughts, let's kind of recap the bill, what that looked like, and why it was kind of brought up. Because I know it was going from 21 to 25 and then bringing it back down to 21. So there's kind of a lot going on there.
So in 2016, we all are familiar with the Chattanooga accident that resulted in the death of several students. And as a result of that accident, the legislators said we're going to up the age. So in 2016, they changed the law to be 25 to operate a school bus in the state of Tennessee.
And that was up from 21.
From 21. Okay. It had been that for decades.
What's interesting to me is the driver, right, in the Chattanooga crash that caused the legislation you think to jump. He was 26 at the time of the accident. So even if the legislation, changing it to 25, he still would have been a driver. Correct?
He could have been, yes.
Okay. So
I don't know that you can say that a person that if you are 21 or 24 or 25, that the age is what determines a good fit for a school bus driver. I think there are other factors that you have to consider. Their attitude, do they have good character? Do they have a willingness to learn? Do they like being around children? Those are all necessary skill sets to being a good bus driver, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. So when the legislator changed it, was that, based off of transportation decisions, or how did that come about? It was they just changed the law?
I'm confident it was a direct result of the accident. Many would say that it was a knee-jerk reaction. Mm-hmm. But when you have fatalities, emotions are running pretty high. Mm-hmm. And the legislator said, hey, at 25, we believe that you'll be better suited to be a school bus driver in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. And I know that made you guys, the state with the highest age requirement?
We are the most restrictive state in the union currently.
Okay. So then what kind of prompted this new bill to go from 25 back down to 21?
Our state, as I would imagine a lot of other states, we are all struggling to get CDL drivers, period. School bus drivers are hard to come by. And I know from where I'm at, I've encouraged folks to reach out to their legislators. And I'm grateful that the representative from Smyrna, he made a recommendation to bring the age back down to 21. So it got some sponsors. It had several good sponsors there. It made it through the House, I believe, subcommittee with no issues. But when it got to the Senate, it reached a little bit of a railroad there, a block that stopped it. And it was my understanding by only one vote. So it's quite disheartening, but I also understand it may take another year to go in there and have some conversations with legislators that might have been uncomfortable with voting, because it's got to get out of the subcommittee to get to the floor for a vote. And I'm not certain what would have happened had it gotten to the floor, because I think there are still, as you have alluded to, there are some very hot thoughts, I guess would be the best way I would put it. There are folks that are very emotionally charged, would be a better way of describing that, as it relates to transitioning age from 25 back to 21. There are a lot of us younger, or I'm not the youngest transportation director out there anymore, but, I got my license at 21, and there are countless others that are in leadership roles today. We've had our licenses since we were 21 years old. There are other states where I was reading, I think there are 28 other states maybe that hire bus drivers at 18. Granted, you're doing that intrastate versus interstate, because Federal Motor Carrier would say you have to be 21 to drive outside of the state. But I think that being able to drive just in your little local area at 18, that would be okay with training.
So you said, you even think maybe 18 could be a good starting age, right, for a school bus driver with training. In your opinion, what would that training be? What would that look like? And like you said, it's not the age that makes a school bus driver.
Training that I think would be beneficial for someone that were to be 18 or 19 years of age. Crisis intervention training, that is phenomenal training that teaches you how to interact with difficult situations, specifically with students, with parents. Parents are more confrontational today than what they would have been when I started 23 years ago. CPR training, if there were a life-threatening event on the bus, making sure they have that. There are some wonderful defensive driving programs that are more than just watching a 2-hour little video and getting a certificate. They're actually hands-on trainings. And then the actual CDL skills test. I think the legislator could put some guardrails in place that would say, we're going to allow this, but every year they're going to have to come back in and be retested by a certified third-party examiner or a CDL station, just to keep all of that knowledge, those skills finely tuned. Because we currently don't do that. We license someone at 25, and that will be the last time that they'll ever see an examiner. It'll be the last time that their skill sets are ever really challenged. We do have our annual 4-hour class that we do with the Department of Safety and Homeland Security Pupil Transportation Division. That's all done online. You watch a couple of videos, you take a test and check you're still a certified and highly qualified driver. I think you have to have that hands-on information and that hands-on training. Currently, as we do that training, there are some exceptions to our current law. So a teacher can get their license at 23, and a member of our armed services, they can come back and be able to get that license at 23 years of age. Some might say then we're willing to put a gun and ask a young man or a young woman to go fight for our country at the age of 18, but they're not allowed to give back to their communities because, quote, they're not responsible enough. I'm not sure how people feel about that, but I think that if you're able to vote and you're able to go fight for our nation, we should extend that same privilege to operate a school bus with the appropriate training and safeguards put in place.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could do that and be successful.
So you're not necessarily in favor of anyone at 18 being able to drive a school bus?
By no means. There are some young folks that would be a very scary thought to imagine.
Mm-hmm. But with the right safeguards in place, and obviously you go through that interview process, and you could tell if someone's, 30 and wanting to be a school bus driver that maybe this isn't the job for them.
Yes, I would agree. There are people that come in that are older that I've interviewed that I would say they're not cut out for this.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got a lot of bus attendants that are younger that have been working with the students. They've built those really good professional and positive relationships. They would love to drive a school bus, but they're going to have to ride on a bus until they're 25 years of age before
Mm-hmm.
we can do anything else with them.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's a resource that we're not tapping, and we're so short on bus drivers. We're so short on CDL drivers. I think we need to be removing barriers to our challenges right now.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the other directors in the state saying or thinking? Like, have you talked to others? Do they have the same opinion?
I think it's a mixed feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I've talked to a few that seem to be concerned when they're like, I just don't know if I feel comfortable with them being at 21 today.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but when did you get your CDL? 21. What's the difference? I mean, we're setting a minimum age of 25. Well, let's have the conversation if it's against the law to terminate somebody from their employment because we say, you know what, you're 75 and shouldn't be driving a school bus. I'm not allowed to make that decision based on age when they're older. Why are we allowed to do that at such a young age?
That's a good point.
Because we've got a lot of older drivers that probably shouldn't be on the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. Looking at the minimum, but then, why is there no maximum?
That's just my personal opinion.
I'm curious. So when you got your license at 21, what did that look like for you? What was that process? And did you personally feel ready to take on that responsibility?
So I think I'm the anomaly. I always wanted to drive a bus. My grandma drove a bus. My grandpa drove a bus. So I had been around it a long time, and I think that would be applicable to a lot of our contractors as well, that they've grown up in this world. And once it gets in your blood, it is very hard to get it out.
Mm-hmm.
I trained in Marshall County, Tennessee, had a great driver trainer. Anthony, he was one of the mechanics. He was tough on me. And that was back when you still had to do offset backing to the right and left. You had to do parallel parking, traditional and blindside. That was hard. And I can remember when we got through that process and the first few times I drove down the road, I met a big old dump truck on a back road. And I was like, I don't know what I can do. I said, is it okay just to stop? He said, if that's what makes you feel comfortable, yes. But I trained for 4 or 5 weeks before they let me go. I didn't want to go and not be successful the first time I went.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got over there, the offset backing, blindside, that was pretty tough. I told the little examiner, I said, I don't know if I can do that. She said, well, if you don't, you're going to fail. So either way, I got in there and did it, but it was really tough.
Yeah.
We don't even do that anymore. We do straight line, offset backing to the right, and then you just do the alley dock today, which that's hard too, backing a 40-foot vehicle into a hole, and you got to have your rear bumper within 3 foot of the rear of that particular alley. It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen them do that at the TSD conference when they do the rodeo and stuff. It looks challenging.
It's easier now because I've been doing it a long time, but when you're first having to acquire those skill sets, and I think more so because somebody's standing out there with a pencil and a paper, chalking it up, and you're like, oh, Lord, what did I do?
Okay. And so getting back, to the Facebook comments, and you obviously read a couple too about kind of what other people were saying, and a lot of people, it was mixed, right? Some states, like you said, you can drive at 18, and they were saying, let kids drive earlier, let them have that experience because of the driver shortage, and where others were like 18 isn't mature enough, they need more time. And so I think looking at it from that parent perspective that you brought up earlier, being a driver, driving a busload of kids, right? And now the parent gets involved, gets upset with you, starts yelling at you. Like, what support would there be for younger drivers to have? Like, was that a challenge when you were 21? Did you have parent interactions?
I did have parent interactions when I was younger. I had a really good supervisor, though. Johnny Flint was my supervisor all those many years ago, and he was very supportive of his team members. And he spent a lot of time coaching you before you would go out. I was put on an inner city route, so I grew up in Cornersville, and that's a little tiny town in southern Middle Tennessee, and I think we had 2 or 3 African-American children in the whole building. It wasn't until I started working where I am today that I ever saw a Hispanic population. But he spent time, and he always reminded us of the 3 C's, calm, cool, and collective.
Mm-hmm.
I use that, I don't know how many times, even now when someone's just really berating me.
Mm-hmm.
I just think calm, cool, collective. And the other thing that he taught us was that when those parents are yelling at you, they're not really yelling at you. They're yelling at the position. And the sooner you can internalize that, the better.
Mm-hmm.
And once I got that under control, I was okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then even from, the student perspective with behavior, because I saw that a lot in the comments, how, I guess, would you support your driver who was having behavior issues? And is it different based off of age? Are students not going to respect someone who's 21 versus 18 versus 25?
So now I'm just going to speak from the heart here. I have young bus attendants, and I have what I'm going to call veteran bus attendants that have been doing this a long time. You will see with our younger attendants, they have they have that camaraderie with the students. They know how to talk the language that our students talk today. Whereas you have that older generation that this is the way it's going to be, and there's no exceptions. There's no bending of the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So I have found with the younger folks that come into this business, they tend to, the stresses that I used to stress about, they don't really have to deal with so much. I think their bigger concern will be dealing with the parents. But, you could put another safeguard in there or a guardrail and say, for drivers that are under the age of 25, you need to have a second adult on the bus. In our district, we have an attendant on all the buses. And that would allow them to focus solely on driving and occasionally be involved with supporting the bus attendant in the work that they're doing, managing students.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I was pulling up the stats here for a second. So nationwide, 21 states and the District of Columbia have at least 21 for school bus endorsement. And then 28 states have it at 18. So actually more states are setting it at that younger requirement than older. And then obviously you guys in Tennessee are at 25, and then a couple states require it at 19. So that's interesting that states are leaning in the younger direction.
It is interesting. I'm not certain why we in Tennessee have not embraced the idea of going back to at least the age of 21. I would not be opposed to, and I think there would be plenty of supervisors in our state that would say we'd be all right with moving back to the age 18 or 19. 18 does seem awful young, but I just go back to that whole previous thought of, at the age of 18, you're financially emancipated. You are now able to vote, to contribute to society. And more importantly, if for some reason our freedoms were being compromised, you would be old enough to be put into a battle and fight. They may not be totally responsible at that age, but I can tell you the military, with appropriate training, they make them ready to be battle worthy and battle ready. I believe we can do the same thing in Tennessee to ensure their ultimate success in transporting students to and from school. I wouldn't think that an 18-year-old needs to be doing field trips and, doing stuff outside of the state, but they could do all that in-state stuff, which would help us out a lot.
Mm-hmm. So going forward, you mentioned the bill failed, so obviously didn't pass. But do you see it coming back? What do you kind of anticipate going forward?
It would be my hope that the folks that I know have reached out, I hope that they will continue to reach out and press the legislators. Sometimes it takes a year or two to see things happen. That's one thing I can say in 23 years working with government. It moves slow, so not to be weary in well-doing. go back. And I think this time around, we should have spent a little more time trying to educate the public. I don't know that there was a lot of that done. I think most of the information that came about, the for or against would have come from the Department of Ed and from the Department of Safety. And of course, I can imagine being in the People Transportation Division's leader there. His focus is only on safety. So moving it back to 21 or even to 18, absolutely not. We know that younger folks are not as responsible. I won't disagree with that, but it's not fair to say that all young folks are not responsible, because there are a lot of successful young folks. The thing that I would add to that, though, is that by the time they're 25, I started driving a school bus when I was in college. So if we can get them at a younger age and they stick with it, then we possibly can have them for a career. But by age 25, they're done with college. They've already probably found their little niche in society that they want to contribute to. We've lost them. Mm-hmm. We're done. And so where are we working from again? We're back with the retirees, the older folks whose reflexes and senses, they're all dulled. That would be a good way to put it. Because as we get older, that's just part of the natural process of aging. So I just think that we need to be targeting that younger generation. And I know that I've said before, our industry, you don't see a lot of young people in it. And what can we do to attract young people to what I think is an exceptionally fun industry to work in?
Yeah. I have no clue if this is correct, right? But 25 is the age that you can rent a car, right? It's the age that your insurance goes down, I think. You're at a premium, and then you're 26 and all of a sudden you pay less. But I wonder if that has to do with the age that Tennessee requires to be a school bus driver.
It could. And I think it goes down at 21 and 25. So you have those natural points where you'll see a drop if you get married. So I think somebody that's married and has small children should be able to go on and start driving the school bus. By that point, they're already, or should be, somewhat responsible, because, hey, you're taking care of a little version of yourself. Yeah. So yes, that would be true at age 25. We all look forward to that insurance drop, or at least I did.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Josh. I appreciate you jumping on the podcast. And we actually caught up with a couple people on the trade show floor and asked them, their opinions on what their state requires and what they think the age should be for a starting school bus driver. So let's hear what the attendees have to say on the trade show floor.
Hi, Billy Hewish, Farmington Schools, Farmington, New Mexico. I've been in transportation now for 44 years. Currently, our state does allow an 18-year-old to drive a school bus, but our school district policies are that they have to be 21. This is something, after visiting with folks out here at STN East, that I'm going to go back and do a survey and probably head toward our school board and see what we can do to maybe change this to allow 18-year-olds.
My name is Katrina Morris. I'm the Executive Director for the Michigan Association for Pupil Transportation in Michigan, and our age limit is 18 to have a CDL and drive a school bus. I think it's on an individual basis. We have had several of them that started driving at 18 and have been phenomenal drivers for the past 20 years.
Mitzi Smith, Assistant Director for the MS-86 School District in Maine. The minimum required age for driving a school bus is 21 years old, and I don't believe that it should be lower than 21 years old. I believe it probably should be closer to 25, as that's usually the age where insurance rates start to decrease for that age bracket, and I just believe for a safety standpoint that the older the better.
Heather Hanshin, Supervisor of Bus Operations for Prince William County Schools in Virginia. The minimum age to drive a school bus in Virginia is 18. Now, some people might think that's too young. Some people might think you need to be older. I do think it's a case-by-case scenario, but it's been a great recruiting tool for us as we're trying to find more drivers. We've had a lot of success hiring young and getting them in the door and getting them trained up right, so I'm happy with it.
David Johnson. I'm from Iowa, Executive Director, Iowa People Transportation Association. I think that it kind of varies by the person, but I think in Iowa, our age is 18, and I think that works for us. But you still need to look at the person. When I was at a district, I hired a kid that was right out of high school, 18 years old. He was going to school to be a teacher. It worked out great. There's other situations where that's not going to be the case.
A special thanks to Ryan and fan favorite Taylor for jumping on, as well as Joshua Hinerman. Guys, we appreciate you for being here. Thanks to our attendees out at STN EXPO East for giving us your sound bites. We also appreciate our sponsors, TransFinder and School Radio. Guys, don't forget to visit stnonline.com for our latest news and analysis on the school transportation industry. And don't forget to sign up for STN EXPO West out in Reno, Nevada. stnexpo.com/west to get out there and save 33% off your registration. April 11th is the deadline, so do not wait any longer. Go jump on that, register today. Guys, don't forget you can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to pods. We got weekly episodes for you, nation, live episodes. We're always here for you, talking school transportation, all of the analysis, all the latest details, all the latest news. We love you, nation. We'll see you next week.